Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
Allow me to reintroduce myself
with Mike McGuire.
Stand up, son. Let me take a good look at you.
This guy's a serious professional.
You know what I want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, the professional wrestling.
Do I have your attention now?
Done shilling. I'm done shilling, okay?
Let's get this show on the road.
I love professional wrestling.
Well, happy new year. Welcome to the show. First one of 2026. It is just after New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom 20, where Hiroshi Tanahashi has wrestled his final match. I believe his celebration ceremony is still going on somewhere, no matter when you're listening to this, because boy, was that a thing. We'll talk about that and a lot more this week. Also, some interesting business news coming out of the WWE world. In filings, we saw a report about where and when creative may have been occurring, times where they said it might not have been, all sorts of other things. So we'll talk to the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer about that. And if you are one of the many that checked out this year's holiday hullabaloo, thank you so much for taking part in that. Yeah, it's about 3 hours of content. You can go back on the podcast feed and check it out at CelebrateWrestling.com or Celebrate Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can hear the entire hullabaloo. And there's a lot going on in that show. My thanks again to Post Wrestling's John Pollock, Brett the Hitman Hart, RJ City, Dan the Mouth Lavransky, and of course, the entire Celebrate Wrestling crew. We are down a couple members right now, as Andy Evans is out for a little bit while longer, but he's coming back soon. And also sending thoughts out to our buddy Joe Aguinaldo, who has talked about it a little bit on social media. But yeah, he's going through a little bit of a medical thing right now. Both of them are fine. Both of them will be fine, and both of them will be back to talk about pro wrestling in the near future. But in the meantime, we've got a lot to talk about. Like I said, a lot has happened since that John Cena retirement match. A lot has happened even in the last week since the new year began. And we're producing the show on January 4th. So, I mean, we're 4 days into the new year, and there's already so much to talk about. But nevertheless, we will get to that. Also, I want to send a shout out to a few cities and towns I'll be coming to soon. This Friday is Dungeon Wrestling Doomsday 2, which is coming to the Victoria Pavilion in Calgary. And that's going to be featuring all the Dungeon Wrestling stars. This coming February for a few shows with Canadian Wrestling's Elite, CWE, doing the shows on the road, ring announcing and stuff for them. And also a shout out to Southern Alberta's Pure Power Wrestling. I was a part of a show with them last night. So last night came home after tearing down all my tech stuff. So just in time to watch the first half of Wrestle Kingdom 20, which here in Alberta started at midnight. Okay, so for those of you on the East Coast that watch this live, I don't know how you do it. That's a 2 a.m. start. And then you got the pre-show as well, right? So really, for those of you that made it through the entire 5 or 6 hours, good on you, because I was not one of them. I watched some last night, some this morning, and then got ready for the show today with Dave. And yeah, after doing an indie shot as well, it's like, yeah, that's a lot of wrestling in 24 hours. So if you ever think for a second that I don't like wrestling, boy, are you on the wrong show. Because we're here to talk about it. We discuss the behind the scenes a little bit. And of course, we talk about some of the things that are coming up in the future, including the rumor mill, which is a buzz. In fact, you know what? I'll spare you the speculation here. Let's get right into it with the 5 biggest stories of the last little while. Here it is, the 5 count.
You want to hear the breaking news?
We start off with New Japan's big Wrestle Kingdom 20 show, which took place in the Tokyo Dome in front of what was said to be almost 47,000 fans, packing the building and staying till the very last minute. Some great matches occurred on this show, including a winner-takes-all match for the IWGP Women's Championship and NJPW Strong Women's Championship.
2 titles! She's done it! Shuri has defeated Saya Kamitani!
Siri defeated Saya Kamitani by pinfall in what was a great match, and also the only women's match on the show.
done it.
Aaron Wolf, the household name in Japan, making his big match debut for the Never Championship. And then, of course, the IWGP World Championship being defended by Konosuke Takeshita, Yota Tsuji. With the Global Championship, both titles on the line, and Tsuji walking away with both after impressive victory over Takeshita. But then, friends, as we know, it was time for the main event of the night.
And if it hasn't before, the gravity's now.
Hiroshi Tanahashi wrestled his final match, losing to Kazuchika Okada by pinfall. After the match, it was a litany of superstars that showed up to send Tanahashi off as he goes to be the president of the company. A lot of names that are in AEW, including Jay White, Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, as well as Katsuyori Shibata, Keiji Muto, Tatsumi Fujinami, and Tetsuya Naito were those who took part in the farewell. Notably absent Shinsuke Nakamura, who of course is under contract to WWE. Well, it's a couple months ago during the Last Time Is Now tournament that we saw Matt Cardona return as Zack Ryder to WWE TV. Well, now it's been revealed that Cardona has in fact signed a new deal with WWE and will be performing as Matt Cardona. He made his return to WWE SmackDown during the first 3-hour SmackDown of 2026, taking on Kip Wilson. This came also as several NXT call-ups seem to be happening. Trick Williams, now part of the SmackDown roster. Jordan Grace, Javon Evans, and more are expected to be showing up on Raw or SmackDown in the future. Well, speaking of WWE Raw, did Adam Pearce just drop a small bomb on the internet?
Do not forget 3 humongous championship matches. Who can break down the walls and claim the gold?
Well, it's not like users on X to glom onto every word somebody says, especially wrestling fans. No, very reasonable reactions to anything that happens. Nevertheless, those words break the walls down, have the internet in a tizzy, and further fuel the speculation that Chris Jericho could be returning to WWE as soon as this Monday's Stranger Things Raw on Netflix. Now, the show is already set up to be a monster show with 3 title matches. You've got Becky Lynch challenging for the Women's Intercontinental Championship against Maxine Dupree. Io Sky and Rhea Ripley will face the Kabuki Warriors for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And, of course, CM Punk defends the World Heavyweight Championship against Braun Breaker from The Vision. Also advertised for the show, Liv Morgan returns in action against Lyra Valkyria, and several tie-ins to the Netflix series Stranger Things expected to happen through the night, I believe. If you saw the finale, you get it. And several reports are saying that Tommaso Ciampa might be on his way out of WWE. According to the website bodyslam.net, they're saying that Ciampa's WWE contract is almost expired, and according to the report, he'll be finishing up his time without a renewal. Now, Ciampa has had a litany of injuries throughout his career, but at the same time, still seems to have several miles left on him. The question is, how many? There's been no discussion as to whether or not this is a plan for him to wrestle elsewhere or just call it a career in the ring. And speaking of calling it a career in the ring, shout out to Canadian wrestling legend Vance Nevada, friend of the show, celebrated author, and of course wrestling historian. We've had him on the show in the past, talking about his books that document Canadian pro wrestling history especially. Anyway, Vance is doing his final run of shows across Canada. In fact, just had his last match here in southern Alberta, where I'm based, last night. Either way, the man known as Mr. Beefy Goodness hasn't said whether or not he's done with pro wrestling altogether, but as far as his time in the ring goes, that will be coming to a close very soon. Well, still to come on the show, Dave Meltzer and I go through some of the biggest stories, including an interesting set of texts that came out involving Vince McMahon and him still being involved in WWE Creative and what the plan may have been for his quote-unquote retirement a few years ago. We'll also talk about New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 20, Tanahashi, Chris Jericho, and a bunch more.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
The alternate commentary table, ACT, brought to you by the Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed. Listen, it's Mitch, it's Dimitri. We got this little pod thing that we do every single week where we talk about the week in wrestling and the way in which we do it from the other side of the railing. Right, Mitch?
I like that.
We're coming at it because we love it. We hate it. The alternate commentary table. Download it anywhere where you're getting your podcasts.
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Happy New Year, Mr. Meltzer.
Happy New Year.
How are you recovering from... I don't even know what you do for the holidays. What do you do? Like, I mean, obviously it's different for everybody, but what's your holiday season like usually?
I went to see my kids and nothing unusual. My dog got really, really sick, so that kind of killed this last week.
Oh, man. Everything all right, though?
He's going to live.
Okay.
He survived.
All right.
It was really, really, really tough week. And, so then, that pretty much took everything, I did that in an issue this last week and I did nothing else. And then last night I watched the Tokyo Dome show and then I watched the rest of it this morning. So that's pretty much it. It was a real interesting week, for wrestling though. A lot of big stories the last 2 weeks. It ended the year pretty big. And then now we're kind of like starting to work on the awards and, it's an amazing year. When we look back at 2025, it's an amazing year. Sometimes people tend to complain about a lot of stuff, but if you're talking about like good wrestling matches and good shows and successful promotions, man, what an incredible year. WWE business was on fire. AEW in-ring was incredible. CMLL, probably the promotion of the year, honestly. Just an incredible end of the year. AAA rebounded with WWE. Mm-hmm. You go Stardom, best year for a women's promotion in 30 years, so
wrestling's still up. Wrestling is still up.
And a lot of talented people, and I was looking at like wrestler of the year, women wrestler of the year. It's like there's 5, 6, 7 people that were, if you look at what they did this year, would have won most years. And, most of them won't even place. Women wrestling, it's just, there's been nothing, no year like this for women's wrestling since the 90s. The heyday of All Japan Women and, men's wrestling. Just all over the board. So many incredible matches and so many great performances. People like Bandito and Takeshita, they had years that like would be unbelievable most years. And, I don't even know that they could win awards. What a performance Takeshita did today.
Well, we'll talk about that guy in just a minute here, but yeah, definitely one of those things where I don't care if you're a fan of one promotion or the other. If you're a fan of pro wrestling, you were treated this past year. So
yeah, if you couldn't find anything you like this year, then
you're not a fan.
Then you couldn't be much of a fan because you got every different style and every different thing, and a lot of it at a really, really high level. Some of the matches that were held, in this last year were just incredible. I looked at match of the year. There's like literally 4 dozen matches that would have been matches of the year a lot of years. That's how elevated the wrestling has been. And some of these guys like Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay and Takeshita, those guys just had incredible years. And then you had, the retirements with Cena and Santo and, Tanahashi today. It's really been an incredible, there's been a lot of news every week. There's tons of news. There was, just the stuff that came out of the lawsuit last week was.
Well,
really
and I want to go there. We'll go to that first, I guess, Dave, because we do got to talk about some of the news. We're talking to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. And Dave, one of the big stories that came out of this lawsuit involving Vince McMahon, obviously, is that he apparently still had the creative hand going into.
Well, that's not anything. That's not anything new. It was like, I guess you could say it was confirmed, but we knew all that. I knew. At the time when the Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes finish was changed, we knew that it was, Vince McMahon's decision, and we knew that it was Roman Reigns and probably to an extent Paul Heyman who convinced Vince McMahon, and he had the final say. So he had the final say until Ari Emanuel removed him from the process, which is very interesting because, it probably is the case that Ari Emanuel got the company by promising Vince that he would have the final say. And then, because business really, there were a lot of complaints about Vince meddling in the business and meddling in the creative that he pulled him out, before Vince resigned. And it was interesting that in the contract, and I do remember this, when they signed the deal, for Endeavor, to take over and everything like that, one of the things was Vince McMahon could not be fired. He could only resign. He could not, they did not have the power to fire him. But they did force him to resign. They didn't manage to get him to resign because of the sponsor backlash after the Janelle Grant lawsuit. But it was really interesting that they brought up, that Nick Khan and Triple H got big bonuses in the sale to make sure that it went through. There were some other things in the sale that I didn't realize. One of them was, well, I did realize most of it, but the debt, the key, and one of the keys is Endeavor had, all of that debt, billions and billions of dollars of debt, basically about almost $3 billion of debt because of largely the purchase of UFC. So what they did was they moved the debt from Endeavor to TKO. And because of the cash cows that WWE and UFC were, it's their job now to service the debt every year, which is hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So it really helped. It really helped Endeavor because they got out of their debt. And, it helped WWE. It helped the stock price because the stock price is so high, which is probably the one thing that's going to kill the lawsuit. But the reality is that, it certainly does seem that how that sale merger was purported to the public and how it really was completely different. And also the original Vince McMahon resignation, the one in before the lawsuit, the one with from the Wall Street Journal articles where he retired. Remember when he retired?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And thanks everybody. It's time to go. Yeah.
Yeah. When he retired, literally the day of his retirement, Mark Shapiro sends a message to Endeavor going like, this is the plan. Vince is going to, in 9 months, and it turned out to be 6, but he goes, Vince is going to lay low. He's going to put Stephanie and Nick in charge. He's going to go to the board of directors and remove people so he can vote himself back in by removing people from the board of directors, and then we can buy it. This is the day Vince first resigned. So this thing, the Vince resignation, was a complete fraud, obviously, or his retirement, which we knew. It was forced. It was a forced thing. But the reality is the day he did it, he was already formulating a plan with Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro on how to get back in power and to sell to them, because the only way he could get back in power was to force a sale, because the stock price would drop greatly if he came back.
Right.
So by telling everyone, I'm coming back and we're going to sell, the stock price went up. And then they got, his buddy Ari Emanuel got it under the promise that Vince is there for life. And they got a sweetheart deal because, they got, WWE got essentially 49% and UFC 51%. And
so just to clarify for people that might be getting lost, because there's been so many lawsuits and everything, this is the shareholders lawsuit, not the Janelle Grant suit. This is totally separate of that. But
right.
This is the shareholders lawsuit that brought all this stuff to light, just because we're getting a little into the weeds here. So I'm just
right. And that lawsuit, I don't expect it to. The problem is that with this lawsuit, while we're learning a lot of information about what went down and, things that are, put it this way, not exactly how they reported to the public and to the shareholders at the time, but the reality is this stock price is way, way, way up, and Vince is gone anyway. So it's kind of like they're suing over stuff, like they're suing over damages, but there were no damages. They're suing over, like they could have sold it for more, which they very well could have had they waited. It was very clear that this was a preconceived thing. There's even notice from Liberty Media, which was talking. They were in WWE when they and TKO when WWE when they sent out the thing. Basically said, "Oh man, it was touch and go." Liberty Media, Endeavor, and all this. And then there's things from Liberty Media going like, "This was preordained," and we never even made a real offer because we didn't even get information from them enough to make a real offer. So that story doesn't appear to be true either. So a lot of the stuff that came out through, and this is stuff that's not supposed to be dishonest, this is SEC stuff. So there is, they may get a payout of it anyway, just because of what's come out. But as far as at the end of the day, the damages for the shareholders, there was no damages for the shareholders because they got a stock that was, whatever it was, 80 at the time. I don't even remember the number. And now it's 200 plus.
Yeah, it's more than double. So they're fine.
Yeah. It's like everybody, like when Dwayne signed a $30 million deal that's worth like 82 million now, so that's crazy. That's crazy stuff.
Okay, well, we're talking to Dave Meltzer here. This is McGuire on Wrestling. Dave, let's talk a little bit about the wrestling side of things now. You just mentioned Dwayne Johnson. Where is he?
I don't know. I haven't. I don't know. I don't know where. He's doing his acting thing. That's all.
Yeah, just barely a whisper, nothing around the Cena thing. Is it just a case of he's better not being there right now?
It's amazing, because again, he has earned. I don't have the exact number. The last time I checked was 82 million. It's now been a 2-year deal, and he's never around. And he's on the board of directors. And he hasn't been around since that Toronto show, right? Elimination Chamber in Toronto. Hasn't been around since. Oh, I take that back. Didn't he show up in Atlanta and everybody was? See, that's what was when he showed up in Atlanta. And I go, oh, we're going to do a 3-way with Roman and Dwayne and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. And that's actually where I found out all the stuff, which, I guess he kind of denied. I don't know. He didn't deny exactly. I mean, like what I said, but he did say he'd be at WrestleMania and he wasn't. But I mean, the deal is like after that, like they're like I was told, like he is not committed to a match. In fact, he said that there is not going to be a match. Now, of course, he could have changed his mind back then. But I mean, it was on, he had said, I'm not doing a match this year. And, if he ever does another match, I'm sure it'll be in Saudi Arabia.
That's what a lot of the speculation is. I mean, there's so much I know crap. I mean, I could tell you too. I could tell you from people in Saudi Arabia that like they want him bad. Now, has he committed to it? No, he has not. But if he's going to do it, and he'll get. I could just imagine the amount of money he's going to get because these fighters are getting ridiculous money, and he'll probably get money, in that level, tens of millions of dollars if he wants it. He doesn't need it. I don't know what his feeling is as far as, to train to get to that point. It's a really hard endeavor. And, he was born in 1972. This will be in 2027. So we're talking about a 55-year-old guy. I don't know if he wants to do that. And he doesn't need to do that and risk not having a good performance, because that's the one thing is I could tell you what I do know from him is that he didn't want to go in there and fake his way through a match and have a bad performance. All right, Dave, we'll talk about other names that people are speculating. Of course, Raw's big Netflix anniversary show comes up Monday night, and I'm just looking at, oddly enough, the upcoming tour schedule for the UK tour, not of WWE, but of Fozzy. And I'm looking at this, and I see Friday dates and Saturdays and Sundays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I don't see any Mondays.
Yeah, but I don't see him unless WWE's in Europe. I don't see him flying home in the middle of the tour. But I actually should look at that. I mean, I know when he used to do tours, he would always have Wednesdays off, before. Yeah, I mean, he's laying low. He's not going to say anything. I'll know when he shows up. But I mean, everyone expects he's showing up in WWE this year.
Everything stops and slows down in February. That's when the UK tour is done. But I don't know, because he's just seems to me like the guy that would be crazy enough to try and pull it off. I don't know how the time zones work and everything else, but I mean, if it was a case of private jets and private flights and everything, they could pull it off.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the need would be, honestly, to do that. I mean, because he's only going to be, it just depends on, again, like, do they want to do the retirement at WrestleMania? In which case, it's if I think the right thing, if they're going to do the retirement, would be like a year-long thing. I think WrestleMania is too early to do it, especially since I'm guessing AJ Styles might be at WrestleMania.
Well, SummerSlam is the new WrestleMania.
Could be SummerSlam. I mean, there's been talk of Brock Lesnar for SummerSlam. So, right. But yeah, there absolutely was a plan of 3 retirements this year, which was AJ Styles, Brock Lesnar, and Chris Jericho. Whether that changes or not, I don't know. But I mean, absolutely, there was that plan. Whatever it was, 6-7 weeks ago.
Well, okay, I'm going to just hypothetical this. So WrestleMania could be Lesnar.
No, and I think that must more likely be Styles.
You think so? Yeah, I guess, yeah, they're starting to lean towards that a little more. They're leaning into that. Okay, either Styles or Lesnar. Okay, so we'll swap that with the other one, which could be SummerSlam, we'll say. Mm-hmm. And then let's not forget about, are they going to do this again? WrestlePalooza.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, no, they'll probably do it. They like the name. They're trying to make it into a big show. So.
Oh, this is the next big brand. Remember, that was the statement that came out from
Yeah, but people
last
didn't.
year.
People didn't really. I mean, it wasn't like this. I mean, I didn't see the numbers, and granted, it was early in the game. Oh, I mean, I didn't see the numbers of viewers. I did see the numbers of people who signed on to ESPN that weekend, and it was a very disappointing number. It was like 75,000. Or something. I mean, it was 150,000 for the week, but they'd been doing about 75,000 every weekend anyway. So it's probably 75,000 new, roughly, for that weekend. It wasn't any great shakes. Certainly, no matter what anyone says, and they'll all say different, it couldn't be anywhere close to what I think ESPN was hoping for from their first pay-per-view.
We're talking to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer and WrestlingObserver.com. You're listening to McGuire on Wrestling, making a new radio station debut next week, but I figured this is the perfect time while we're still just getting into the new year here to talk all about Wrestle Kingdom. Dave, of course, as we were waking up today, getting ready to talk about it, just finishing things up. I think somewhere Tanahashi is still having a retirement speech somewhere.
That was long.
That went longer than the match. It was crazy.
And the match was 33 minutes. Yeah, that was a long thing. I mean, it's one of the best things I've ever seen. And the match was incredible, and the show was not incredible the first half, but those last two matches were incredible. But yeah, it was really the announcing. My God, those guys were great.
I sent Walker a message this morning saying, what a great job. What
a great job he did. And Charlton too. What a great job of really we've seen with Sting and we saw Cena. And I will say from the announcing standpoint and the emotion standpoint, and WWE did a good job with Cole and everything like that. But this was different. This was at a different level. I mean, I think that overall, as retirement things go, this is probably the best I've ever seen. Maybe the Terry Funk in '83, but he came out of retirement so many times. I don't know. It was really an incredible. The Muto retirement was pretty incredible too, in a different way. I would have liked. I guess when you saw Omega and Jay White and Ospreay and Naito and everyone come out and Shibata.
Nakamura? Is that what you were thinking?
Not just Nakamura, but there's several people, I would have, if you had enough time and everything, I would have loved to have seen, Nakamura, Kenta Kobashi, Chono was there, just get him in the ring because Chono's a real legend there. Mm-hmm. Maybe Minoru Suzuki, Nagata standing there on the outside. You can't have everyone. Yeah, I mean, Nakamura did feel like an absence. I don't know what the politics were. I can't imagine. Well, he was working the tour here, and he was working house shows this week. So, although I don't know if he's working this, I actually have to look see if he was working. He was working like before the New Year's Eve, but I don't.
Either way, it was noticeable in my mind just seeing everybody else coming out. Even when Naito came out, you knew he was going to come, but it was one of those things where it's like, where's Shinsuke? Where's Shinsuke? So that was for me.
Yeah. It was he there's politics involved in all that. I mean, I'd like to see AJ there too. I mean, Tanahashi and AJ had great respect for each other. But yeah, it was a great production by New Japan. Now they gotta, rebuild their company. But I would say that the Tsuji Takeshita match was pretty much perfect for what it needed to be. He beat him. I mean, some symbolism of beating him with the Boston Crab was really something. They really told a great story. So, and Tanahashi and Okada was very, very emotional. It was probably, I don't know, the most emotional match I've seen since, I don't know, maybe Ospreay and Oku in London, or before that, Cody and Dustin in with Chicago, I think, right? Cody, whatever. No, I think Chicago, wasn't the Cody and Dustin match, or was it Vegas? Might have been Vegas. I think it was Vegas.
I remember the match. I don't remember where it was.
Yeah, I think it was Vegas. Okay. That match was something too. But yeah.
Somebody that really stood out to me on this show, a couple. I mean, I didn't know much about Siri and Kamitani.
Yeah, they had a great match.
Yeah, but that was the only women's match on this show, but a really great match. And then you also had this guy, Aaron Wolf, who an actual Olympic judo
gold medalist. No, he's a national hero there. This show, the reason that they were on network TV was because of Aaron Wolf, not because of Tanahashi. And I mean, he's a major celebrity in that country. So him being in New Japan is a big deal. But I mean,
well, they sure built him up. I mean, whether it was great
they did the best. They did the best they could. Evil did a fantastic job with him. They protected him very well. But it's like, man, I don't see it. He reminds me very much of there was a sumo star named Hiroshi Wajima in the late 80s. And they started him out with Tiger Jeet Singh. And this match was a takeoff of that. As soon as they said he's facing Evil, it's like, okay, this is Wajima and Tiger Jeet Singh. And there's a way that because Tiger was such a legend, that the first match was actually a big success. But in the long run, Wajima had a good match with Ric Flair, but not with that many other people, and that was Ric Flair at his prime when, he could have a good match with a door, So I think it was a big success, but I didn't see it in Aaron Wolf at all. I haven't seen it in his run-ins. I see him as like another Gable Steveson, just not, super athlete, but just not a lot of charisma for pro wrestling.
Well, I guess we'll have to see because maybe it's just me and because I don't watch it as often as you do, but I actually bought in on this guy a bit. So maybe it's one of those things where he develops over time and they said the same thing about Steveson, but I don't know. This guy seemed a little, at least maybe it was Evil's work. Maybe it was everything else going on.
Evil was fantastic. You had some really incredible performers with Takeshita, Okada, and Evil, making sure that the people who won looked as good as they could possibly look. That was the strength of the show, was those three guys. Tanahashi too, and Yota Tsuji had probably his career best match, but he needed a guy like Takeshita to get to that level. And in hindsight now, after seeing the show, with the controversy, which should have been Nakamura, it's like Nakamura could not have had that match with Tanahashi. He never did before, except for that 1G1 match. And that was, 12 years ago or something. But Okada was the perfect opponent for Tanahashi tonight.
For as much, and this also stood out to me, and this always stands out to me with New Japan, is that whenever they shoot their shows, it always seems like they don't worry about getting a lot of the production in sync with what's going on, either on the stage or in the ring. But that match, the Okada and Tanahashi match, like the shots, everything was just ready to go. And everything seemed more in sync there. So definitely, I recommend the show. If you're a fan of watching something different, or if you're obviously a New Japan fan, you've probably already watched it by now. Shout out to Jake in Chicago, who stayed up all night to watch it live.
My kid stayed up to watch it all live.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. They weren't even here. I didn't. I went till 2 a.m. and then I said I'm going to watch. I'll watch the last two matches when I wake up. I didn't realize I was going to take hours.
3 hours to get through.
It was. I woke up and I go, I'll be done at 9:30.
And I'm looking at the scroll time on New Japan World too, and I'm looking at the feed, right? I'm looking at the, because it shows you the total time, and I'm like, were there after matches? Like, was this like a UFC thing where they just had like a bunch of future prelims after, or what? But no, it was just all ceremony. So
the one thing I would say I didn't like, and this is the only thing, is when the show was over. In the building, the last thing they did after Tanahashi finally went back, which he was out there forever. When he finally went back, they played that career video on the screen, and they're showing. I could see the crowd, and there's almost 47,000 people.
Yeah,
and they're all there. Nobody left, and they're playing this video of his career from '99 to 2026. So you're getting this video, but it's on the screen, but they're shooting the screen and far away. And it's just like, why can't we just see the video like it's, like the TV, the video, you know what I mean? Because this video is just so incredible to me of all of these moments. And it's like, we're just, in the, whatever, in the building, it would have been, it must have been, like as far as like a show to see in the building live, it must have been one of the all-time great shows. Not wrestling wise, but just that aspect of it.
Maybe the switching director finally went for a pee break. Who knows? Yeah. All right. Well, Dave, Always a pleasure. Next week, we're going to have the big radio debut on the new station, AM 1150 in the southern BC interior, expanding our reach now to 3 provinces, and very excited to have you on board for that as well. But of course, we want to catch up with you, and we talked about the awards already. Of course, it's going to be a big time and a busy time for you, but what else are some things people can catch up on when they read the Wrestling Observer newsletter?
Yeah, I mean, that story that we talked about at first, there's a lot of detail about how the sale merger went down, how the creative with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes at the WrestleMania where Roman won went down with Vince, with, the timeline of everything like that. There's a couple of messages there, some interesting message by Nick Khan, to say the least, involved in that, with Vince McMahon. There's this app Nick Khan got the key people on, which I guess the messages disappear. So they're talking. Vince is sending messages about the WrestleMania 39 or whatever it was, with the Roman and Cody.
Was that the signal message where he's reading backwards?
Signal spelled backwards. Signal spelled backwards. And Vince just goes back and just goes, "What in the blue hell are you talking about?" Nick goes, "Read it backwards." And it's like they are sitting there going there could be some lawsuit. I don't even know why there'd be a lawsuit about the finish of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. I have no clue.
Well, this is the same app that got that U.S. government official in trouble with the war plans, right? So yeah, that's. But
funny. It's like they do this secret thing
and then decode it in the message.
Vince has no idea what it and he won't even say go to Signal. He uses Signal backwards.
How to take the selfie.
right. With the idea of you'll know what it is, but if this shows up in Discovery, it'll be over everyone's head. But he has to go in there and go read it backwards, so it does show up in Discovery, and we do know exactly what it is. He's amazing.
This is Vince McMahon, who grew up in the Carney language, speaking Carney and everything else. And he can't. All right. Well, yeah, that's another conversation for another day, but I love it. All right. Well, yeah, folks, if you want to see some funny things of don't ever let Nick Khan or Vince McMahon help you decide your safety passwords, that's the answer there. But Dave, always a pleasure, sir. And next week, the big debut. Can't wait to have you on board. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Have a great week.
Still to come, Raw on Netflix 1 year later. The good, the bad, and the reasons to watch this Monday night.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
CKXU-FM 88.3 in Lethbridge is Southern Alberta's true alternative radio station.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
Proudly carrying McGuire on Wrestling every week.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something different to listen to,
This is going to be a slobber knocker.
check out our NCRA award-winning lineup of programs or stream us anytime at ckxu.com.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Final segment of the show, and last show before we go on to our new radio station of AM 1150 in BC. So we'll be scaling 3 provinces now across Western Canada. Very excited about that, and thank you for helping make that possible. And again, more details on that coming up on our social media page. If you want to follow Celebrate Wrestling, there's a new kind of radio station page, which just has a few followers on it. And then we got a few hundred on the private conversation one, which we're going to keep both up, because the private one everybody can post on. The public one is going to be more for show promos and things like that. But if you can do us a solid, and even if you follow the private page, jump over the public one, just give that a follow, a like as well, and maybe even give it a rating if we get to that level here, because the more exposure we get, it doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us get the show to more ears, more places, and that leads to better guests and maybe even more shows and more content. We'll take it all as it comes, because right now we're still in the formative stage. I had a chance to catch up with some of the folks over Christmas. Mitch and Dimitri, especially up in Calgary, had a little bit of New Year's fun with them. Dimitri, by the way, hooking me up with some tickets to my first Calgary Flames game ever in the Saddle Dome, which may also be my last Calgary Flames game in the Saddle Dome, because they're tearing that thing down soon. But it was just a chance to really reflect on what we've managed to do together with Celebrate Wrestling. And if you missed the holiday hullabaloo, you hear a lot of that, a lot of us gushing over ourselves, but more importantly, gushing over you and the support you've brought to this show and helped us carry on and evolve. Speaking of carrying on and evolving, we are now into year 1, wrapping up of WWE on Netflix. Here in Canada and many places around the world, it's all WWE on Netflix. We get our NXT, we get our PLEs, and we get SmackDown as well as Raw, all on Netflix. So if you're international, it really is the way to go. And it's convenient because down in the States, it's a dog's breakfast on how to stay up on your WWE content, right? You've got the CW for NXT and SmackDown is on USA. Raw is on Netflix. PLEs are on ESPN. AEW is on other stuff. And that's the one thing I will say is that I hope in this next year, and I don't know what the TV deal is like, but I'm hoping that AEW gets a little more accessible internationally for the weekly TV. I think that can only help things. And I know they're on Max, and I know there's ways to get it online, but just, the more platforms means the more money for people and the less money people have. But let's look at the last year of WWE on Netflix. Remember, it started off with the huge show at the Intuit Dome. They had the big screens going and all the seats were lit up and everything, and everybody was like, ooh, this is big. And The Rock came out and completely decimated his rivalry with Cody Rhodes. Like, I love you, brother. And that was weird, right? That had the Hulk Hogan appearance where he basically got booed out of the building. And Jimmy Hart trying his best to save face, waving that American flag. I mean, you couldn't get Jimmy Hart's arms to wave any harder with that flag than it was. But then you had the show itself and the matches and the event. Do you remember some of the things that happened on the first Raw on Netflix? It seems like 100 years ago, doesn't it? But really, it was just a year ago, literally, this Tuesday. For the matches themselves, your marquee events were Roman Reigns pinning Solo Sikoa. And that was for the Ula Fala in tribal combat. Doesn't that even seem like a distant memory now? Rhea Ripley defeated Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship. Jey Uso defeated Drew McIntyre. I don't remember that match at all. I don't remember what the story was. I don't remember who was mad at who. Good chance it was Drew McIntyre mad at Jey because Drew McIntyre, that's just his thing now. And then the main event, no title on the line. Nothing. But they go for just shy of 20 minutes. CM Punk and Seth Rollins had a WWE Match of the Year candidate. Those two brought everything. Remember, they were like passed out in the middle of the ring, almost clobbering each other and just doing some great, like it was a really, really good match. But that was it. 4 matches. We saw that with Survivor Series this year. We've seen that with a few PLEs. The whole less is more. But all that was jammed onto the first Raw on Netflix. This year, we've already got 4 matches announced. Does that mean there's going to be more? Hard to say when you look at the way they did this last year. I hope there's more. Would be nice if they just threw in something. I don't know. They've got the women's tag team match for the titles. They've got the women's Intercontinental Championship, which is great. You've got Liv Morgan returning, and you've got CM Punk defending the title against Braun Breaker. Is this the time for Braun Breaker to be crowned champion? What do you think? Here's what I'm going to go ahead and say. No. Why? Hold on. I'm not saying that he should never be world champion. The reason I say no is because if the speculation, if the Adam Pearce hint dropping leads to anything, wouldn't all of a sudden the match be happening, middle of the ring, both guys are knocked out, all of a sudden, all the lights go out. Only they don't use that sound because they use that for the Wyatt Six. But all of a sudden, something just happens. The lights go dark, and then there's some sort of weird chicanery going on, maybe all over the building. Maybe streamers start flying down. I don't know. Maybe water fountains kick off. Who knows? They could try anything. And if you don't think they can use water fountains in wrestling, need I remind you of the Royal Rumble 2003? Where the entire entrance was that waterfall that they used the projector on? So yeah, don't tell me that water fountains can't be a thing in wrestling. But all of a sudden, that countdown hits. And that silhouette shows up. Maybe I'm building to false expectations here. Maybe I'm getting my hopes up. Maybe it's all just a big, big tease. Maybe something else happens. Maybe it's not Jericho. Maybe it's the NXT champion, Oba Femi. Says, you guys want to talk champions? I'll take you both out. It's interesting. It's interesting. Also interesting, some Elimination Chamber artwork has started to make its way out. Of course, that's going to be coming up after Backlash. Or not Backlash, sorry. After the Royal Rumble goes Elimination Chamber. Because you got to figure out who's going to be vying for the one world title after the other person chooses the other, right? CM Punk with the World Championship is featured on that artwork. Now, I know that can change with as much of a click of a mouse. But that's why I think having him have that title is still important, because it still looks good on the poster. It still looks good on the artwork. He is the biggest star they have in that company. No offense to anybody else. But nobody chants for Cody Rhodes the way they chant for CM Punk. Nobody chants for Jey Uso the way they chant for CM Punk. Nobody chants for anybody the way they chant for CM Punk. The guy wasn't there for a decade and they chanted for him. So this is why I say CM Punk losing the title? Not yet. And why can't he lose it to Braun Breaker at WrestleMania? Why can't Braun Breaker win the Royal Rumble and get that shot back after the whole chicanery, whatever happens on this Raw? Now, is that a BS ending to a match on a big important Raw? Kind of. But remember, Raw is still TV. Raw is the weekly television show. If you go back to your PLE logic brain, PLEs is where you blow off the story. TV is where you continue new ones. Or start new ones. So it can go either way, really. But the point is, something interesting is going to happen this Monday night on Raw. Plus, I watched the Stranger Things finale. I crammed the whole series back into my brain over a couple weeks because I had forgotten everything. It's been so long, right? Between the studio strike and everything else that happened. The actors' strike. So I had to get back in there. It was a little hard to separate reality of the fact the kids are so big now. But whatever. We got it done. And it was a good show. How are they going to tie it in with the whole thing with Raw? I'm hoping some of the stars are there. Okay? You can't tell me for a second David Harbour wouldn't fit in a Monday Night Raw. Like, come on. Hopper? Absolutely. Oh, that's bringing back David Arquette and Ready to Rumble vibes. He's showing up in that tan police uniform. You know what? Maybe not. Maybe we get Woodsy Hopper with the big beard and lots of plaid. Leaving boxes of Eggos for, I don't know, R-Truth to find. Or somebody like that. I don't know. Either way, it should be a good one. I hope you've had a good time listening to this show this week. Next week, the big debut, the new radio show, the new radio station. Still the same show. Maybe a couple little tweaks here and there, but all in all, it's still going to be the same content we love bringing you each and every week. Until then, friend, thank you as always for listening and letting me do what I do. Till next week, play safe, drive safe. I'll be seeing ya.
McGuire on Wrestling. Online and on the radio. Listen to the show Mondays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time at CKXU.com, wherever you get your podcasts, and at McGuireShow.com.